Hey everyone, Howie here, and welcome to JujitFit's second outing on YouTube. And if you hadn't already guessed from the thumbnail and from the title at the beginning, I have 4 resistance band exercises that you can do at home that are going to improve your punching power. Predominantly today, we're going to be working on the upper body portion of the kinetic chain, working from the obliques and the lats up to the shoulder and the rotator cuff, and moving into the muscles of the arm, the bicep and tricep. And again, 4 exercises, the first of which is the lat pull or the row, which, as the name implies, is going to be working the lat, but also incorporates movements of the shoulder and contractions in the arm, as well as the oblique. Next, we have the chest crossover, which involves the chest, which is one of the muscles I haven't mentioned. Now we're going to involve that because this movement is very much like a punch. We're getting that extra contraction of the chest. And even when we're punching, the chest is a muscle that's used. It's just not one of the major muscles. But let's try and work that and make a more dynamic and powerful movement. After that, we have the landmine shoulder press, which is, again, a shoulder exercise, but again, the movement is very much like a punch, and it's going to involve other muscles as well, as like the obliques and the arms. And finally, we have the anti-rotation hold or the oblique band hold, and that's going to work the obliques, and it's less obvious how that works your punching, but again, it's just part of that kinetic chain, driving that force from the hip up. And we're going to add a bit of a shoulder movement in there, moving that moment arm and getting even more compound movement, because you've got to remember, punching is a massive compound exercise, compound movement, and using all of these muscles I mentioned together to generate force in one area. If you stick around to the end, I'll show you how you can develop 2 of these exercises into a kind of punching drill, and how we can actually get all of that kinetic chain involved. But until then, let's get started. So the first thing we have up is that lat pull or the row. Starting with the band attached in front of you, higher is better, and you're going to pull back, keeping the elbow nice and tucked in, palms down to start with, and then out to the side as you're pulling through. You should really be able to feel that contraction in the lat. You can see that it's working the shoulder and the arm as well. And here at the back you can see it's working that shoulder girdle and that lower back. You need to do this on one knee. It decreases the stability in your hips and core, meaning you have to keep that nice and tight and resist that pull back. Really see how this is very similar to the returning part of the punch as you bring it back from striking. You also do the same exercise with both hands. This is an underhand grip, works your deltoids slightly more. As you move it to an overhand grip, find this works your biceps slightly more. And now we're going to move on to the chest crossover, which is almost exactly the opposite movement to what we've just been doing. So with the band behind you, higher is better again. You're going to push out, down and across as if you're aiming for that other knee, that forward facing knee. You should really feel a really powerful contraction in the chest as you do this. Again, this is like a downward strike. You should be able to see how this will work your punching power. You should really be able to see in these next couple of shots how that's really contracting that muscle in the chest. See that pec muscle contract. And next we have the landmine shoulder press, which is a more functional version of the shoulder press than say an overhead press. It's staying within a nice range
movement which is natural. And it's a very upward motion. As you can see here, I've attached the bands around my knee, I've attached it to a barbell with a weight on the end, and I'm pushing upwards at a kind of 45-degree angle, really utilising those shoulder muscles. This again can be done with both hands, one hand on one knee. Again, that being on one knee is going to increase that tension and the contraction within the core. This is very much a rising straight punch, or a Jodan Seiken as we might call it in Kempo Jiu-Jitsu. Now, just here demonstrating how I am doing this, I have a weight and I have the bar in the weight hole, and I'm using that as the pivot point. I have it covered in a t-shirt just so it doesn't damage or the hole. Now you can see that this exercise can be done without the barbell as well. Now it takes a little bit more core strength if you're really fighting against that. And finally, we have this anti-rotation hold. A fantastic oblique move. Now again, we're going to attach this band as high as we can. We can attach it lower and do this on our knees as well. But you'd like the band ideally to be at 90 degrees, to be perpendicular to you, or even further behind you, so it's really trying to pull those arms back into the side, really working that oblique. And here you can see I'm pulsing, again changing the length of that moment arm, so changing the tension that's putting on the abs and the obliques. Also, that's going to be working the shoulders and the arms. As before, on the knees is going to reduce that stability within the hip flexors. You're going to have to fight against that. And as you can see, on the knees or standing, both are very effective. And you should be able to see in one of these last clips, you should really be able to see how my core here is really trying to twist and be pulled back. You should really be able to feel that burn.
So it should be pretty obvious, at least for the first three exercises, why these are going to help with your striking power. You can see that it's the basic fundamental movement to that of a punch or a strike. We're working all of the muscles in that kinetic chain and reinforcing them working together. Obviously the last one, perhaps less obvious, but you're resisting that twist, which is going to help contract these obliques and help drive that energy from your hip into your fist. So, with that in mind, what we can actually do is we can turn these first two exercises into a bit of a punching drill. And to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to incorporate that lower part of the kinetic chain, learning to twist and drive that weight into the fist from the foot. So, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm very, very briefly and very loosely going to break down how we punch. And from there, I'm going to show you these two variations of the first two exercises we can turn into drills. Let's have a look.
So, as we go to throw the punch, you can see I'm twisting my hip and trying to get all that body weight through and into my fist. As the clip changes, you should be able to see that I'm turning on the ball of my foot to drive through with those legs. Drive that body weight, again, into those fingertips, or into the knuckles rather. You go here for a few clips here of me showing my actual striking power, just to give you an idea of what it is I am actually capable of. So, let's move on and try the exercises. If you hadn't guessed, they're very much going to be the punching movement, but we're going to involve, with this one, we're going to involve that chest as well. Trying to move the fist across towards the other knee, we're going to get that chest involved and utilised as well. Again, twisting those hips, starting with feet perpendicular and ending up with them both facing parallel. A fast strike and a slow return. We will actually be practicing the return speed in the next exercise. Learning to do these two things at the same time is going to really help when it comes to your striking. It's going to create that mind-muscle connection between, for example here, when I pull back, my foot turns back, and when it reaches out, it turns out. So essentially, what you're doing is you're learning to strike with resistance and also return with resistance. To turn those hips as we turn out the arm into the strike.
So I really hope you enjoyed that, guys, and I really hope that some of you find this beneficial, especially if you do striking arts. Even if you don't, these exercises are going to help you produce that instantaneous power and that dynamic power that's actually really important for all kinds of different sports and weightlifting, and actually, to be fair, it's really good in general for working the muscles. So why not try and add it to your routine and see if it helps you, see if it works for you. I have a few more videos planned about power generation and dynamic power generation in the legs, working that kinetic chain in other ways that's going to be good for martial arts. And I also have a plan of showing you how you can practice your footwork with resistance for throws. So, if you do judo or jiu-jitsu or some kind of art like that. But thank you for watching to the end. Thank you to everyone who's subscribed so far. And if you enjoy this, please like and subscribe and stick around for more content. And as always, stay strong, stay safe, and until next time.